Hey everyone, welcome back to this week's episode. Yes, I've been taking my time and I needed a bit of time off because I'm going through information fatigue, feeling that numbness of receiving the same information over and over again and trying to ignore it. Now, what I wanted to share with you this week is about this information fatigue. I decided that the best thing to restore my energy was to step back and reassess how I'm consuming information. And the reason I got down to this was because on social media, I don't know if you're like me, but you end up, but let me just get my phone here, but scroll through and through and through. And after a while, it just seems like you're seeing the same thing over and over again, that nothing really just stands out and says, wow, take note of this. I find that given that the algorithms keep changing, it's kind of exhausting because I end up seeing more of what I don't want. And why would I follow somebody if you're not going to allow me to see the people I'm following? So, with this constant repetitive content that keeps coming towards me, I felt like I'm almost feeling forced into an echo chamber, and I could feel my creativity just being sucked out of me this whole month. So, I decided, well, I need a change. I really need a change. So, I thought, okay, let's go back to Toastmasters. And I went back, and again, same speech, heard it before. I wasn't feeling it at all. So I decided, or I remembered that when you want to get out of this seeing the same thing day in and day out, what would you do? And the best thing to do is, well, do something different, something you didn't think you're good at, or that you don't know anything much about. And a lot of us don't tend to do that leap because it's scary because you don't know what to expect. So I decided this month I'm going to do two things very differently. And I was going to invest more time into podcasting because I really enjoy this medium. And so I went to the podcast show and I went to a publisher summit in London. And I must say, it was amazing to see how my creativity and my energy was just being restored right away back. Now, it I had liked the spin of things when it talks about business. So you see on social media, I am still trying to get better at writing my content. And so, in order to do that, while I was scrolling on social media, all I kept seeing was optimize your content, be true to yourself, but then it's giving me the same information as the previous post. And all these male gurus talking about funneling and funneling and funneling that I don't feel connected to that material. In fact, I feel very conformed. And so coming to these two platforms and to inspire my entrepreneurial creative side of me and how do you weave it into business was something I never imagined I would enjoy as much. But here's one thing I did realize along the way. And one of the things that I noticed that was actually giving me a lot of information fatigue was this constant way of thinking that data is everything. Data speaks everything. Data is what proves everything. But what I noticed with very data driven human beings is that there is a certain fear surrounding communicating with others. You see, if data doesn't show it, then we shouldn't do it. And sometimes I feel that we're leaning so much into data that we override our feelings and our ability, or even better yet, our capability to process difficult emotions. Now, for me, I started on this journey because I was into well being and I enjoyed it. But what I didn't enjoy was that it was always physical, right? You had to do physical exercises, only then what you see is what proves to be correct. But as I notice is this attitude of what you see is what therefore is the right thing, it takes you away from something very important in your life, and that is the ability to trust yourself to make decisions in uncertainty and unexpected times. And so, this whole marketing idea of be authentic, be yourself, is contraindication so often with the data that's constantly presenting itself, because you need the data to prove yourself. And for me, that sucks creativity out of anything. It's just because it's so data driven to convince yourself. And what I notice is there's a lot more increase of anxiety. So you have to ask yourself what's really going on. If well-being is so great, anxiety should be lower. But the reason anxiety is, I notice from clients, the reason anxiety is there is because data gives you a triggers that part of you that's about comparison, comparing constantly to others. And this version of comparison can take you away from sitting quietly with yourself. So when I published Drop Your Noise, I did not expect the reaction I was going to get, in the sense that a lot of individuals would come up to me, and often in the sense of feeling ashamed of themselves or guilty, that they feel lost in direction. They feel lost inside and lonely inside. And they don't really want to go and speak to a therapist, because it's the whole idea that why do I need to be therapy for everything? It's almost like when you're born, you have your mom, your dad, your siblings, and a therapist. And for a lot of individuals, what does that mean? It's this idea that feeling that you are always in a living feeling of being broken, never good enough. And when you notice all of that, then you understand why we lean on data, because we're trying to find guidance or security in some way. So when I sit with all of that and I'm constantly reflecting on it, I going to these podcast shows was very refreshing, because these are individuals who understand how to tell stories from different angles, different ways, and bring messages across in a way that doesn't feel so like your barrier has to be up. And that's what I really do like about podcasts, is that it's sitting in someone's ear, but it's not doesn't feel like an attack. It's an invitation to think of something differently. So what I wanted to do by sitting all with these ramblings in my head, I wanted to come back to my curiosity, because curiosity is the only place I've understood that expands my horizon a lot more, but also is an invitation for me to be more present and aware of who I'm communicating with and how to communicate with others. Feeling constantly conformed, you're always living in a sense of conflict. You're always being on edge, watching what you say or how you say it, and you're holding yourself back from your authenticity. And so it's no wonder that sometimes when we go through information fatigue, or if you've suffered like me from information fatigue, for me it was realizing I'm trying too hard to do what other people are trying to do it right, to get successful. But by doing that, I was omitting the most important part of who I really choose or want to be in a business. This is the part I do like about being your own business, because you are taking a risk on yourself, on your creativity, and on your potential. What is out there that you haven't tapped into yet about yourself that can make all the difference? So for me, and if you're a data-driven person listening to this, sorry, not sorry, but sometimes you need to get off that wagon and start living to be in the moment. And to live in the moment, sometimes data is not always the best thing. So for all you haters out there, you don't like it, there you go. That's my opinion on it. So that's been my ramblings today. Well, for this week. And also another reason why I have not posted as much out on podcasts and social media, because I'm undergoing this shift. Do I want to have information fatigue? Do I want lots and lots of followers? Or do I want followers who really I can make a difference in their lives with whatever I know? And the key thing that I realized out of all this is how much I would love to create a community. And so after attending this publisher summit, I'll put a link in the bio, I understood that I want to get better at my newsletter writing, because I don't think it's there at all. and podcasting and a way to build community, because in the world that we live in that's so noisy, it's easy to get lonely out there. And I much rather have this one-to-one connection or small group connection where it's bringing human relationships back on track. If you want to subscribe, follow, share, I'd really appreciate it. If you want to be part of the community, what more, it'd be wonderful. And find out what the Communications Boutique is all about. I would be really happy to have you on the journey. So that was my ramblings for this week, and look forward to sharing what's coming up next week as well in our guest podcast. I won't let the cat out of the bag on this one. So have a wonderful, wonderful weekend. Do or meet someone completely different. Stay open to the conversation. You never know what you're going to find out about yourself. Take care.